Hello everyone, PoE2 is around the corner, and it is about time to get ready for the game's release. So, in today's video, we are going to go through the most important changes and additions to the game. We will talk about gameplay, stats, combat, passive skill tree, skill and support gems, sockets, and overall user experience. As a support for this video, I will be using the PoE wiki page, which contains a lot of information, but I will be focusing on the most important part. As always, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, let's speak about gameplay. The first big change of the game is the addition of the dodge roll ability. This is not a skill, not a gem, this is purely an ability available to us at all time, except when you are already using it. It makes you avoid projectiles and attacks, and can cancel another animation. It can also be modified with the skill tree and movement speed. Then we have Spirit. Spirit is a new resource added to the game, used to reserve skills like buffs, auras, minions, and trigger meta gems. We will get back to the meta gems in a moment. Spirit can be modified throughout the game with quest rewards, modifiers, and scepters. Freeze and Stun. Freeze and Stun mechanics have been reworked to build up if not applied immediately, and after it wears off, boss are immune to them for a duration. That means that we will not be able to perma-stun or freeze bosses anymore. Disconnecting and logging out. When disconnecting or logging out, we will now have the option to return where we were or to return to town. This change is actually really good because most of us have experienced really bad game crash, which leads to unfortunate situations. I am curious to see how it's gonna work with maps, but I hope that it means that we will no longer be losing Portal because of game crash. Built-in mobility. Most skills have now a built-in mobility, which will make the game feel much more natural and organic. Now let's speak about combat. To begin with, mana cost. Mana cost is now spent throughout the skill animation. Cancelling the animation also stops consuming mana. Again, that is a great change because having to dodge or taking a hit that cancels your skill animation and drains your mana to low level can lead to critical situations. The game will be more flexible and forgiving in that regard. Next is Insufficient Mana. On the same topic, Insufficient Mana to use a skill will trigger a blue effect on the player and play a sound effect. We will see many changes of this type, improving user experience and the overall readability of the game. GGG has been learning from PoE1 and is now paying much more attention to user experience, ensuring that the game has much better visual clarity and readability. Moving during actions. We will now be able to move at reduced speed while using most skills. This is a great addition to the game because it will make it more dynamic overall. I did experience it during the closed beta and I have to say, it felt a bit weird in the beginning. We've been used not to be able to move while attacking for so long, except for a few skills like Cyclone, but it doesn't take too long to adapt. Minions command. Yes, we can now give minions command like moving, targeting, or even targeting chest, which will be very useful, I'm sure. Most important change is that permanent minions will revive themselves on death. What I'm curious about is that if there will be a cooldown after minion get respawned, or if they can simply do it consecutively, since they cannot do it at the same time. Skill type. Enemy skills are no longer attacks and spells. Again, this is great for game clarity. This means that all monster skills are affected by accuracy and evasion, and that spell suppression has been removed. Heavy Stun and Electrocute. Stun and Electrocute seems to be working pretty much the same way, building up until the enemy is unable to perform any action. For clarity, the heavy stun build-up will be displayed under the enemy's life bar. Block, another big change here. Blocking is now an active ability granted by holding a shield. There will be a block meter that leaves us stunned when fully consumed. I am not so sure about this change. First, this is an additional ability that player will have to use on top of the dodge roll. But mostly, I'm particularly afraid of the stun at the end of the block meter. The great question is, if we are stun immune, what happens when the block meter runs empty? Gravity. Projectiles are now affected by gravity and will fall after some traveling distance. This will prevent a lot of off-screen clearing. This is a first hit to bow build and range skill in general, and we will see that there is a lot more. The question here is, what about pro speed? I think it is likely that increasing proj speed will allow us to off-screen again. Or maybe there will be more options to do so, like modifiers on the skill tree or gears. Armour Break. Some skill can break armor, which will reduce armor by a flat amount. This is an interesting change and could be very powerful against monsters and players, in addition with physical damage reduction if it still exists. Traps. Traps are no longer spells or attacks, but have their own categories. We will now need a dedicated weapon type to be able to use traps. Rip, Righteous Fire, Flame Trap, and Sorry Box. Poison. Poison no longer stacks. I'm no poison expert, but I guess it's also a rip for builds like Toxic Rain or Spark Poison for the most popular ones. Tell me what you think in the comments. Portals. We don't need portals to go back to town anymore. However, we can no longer use portals during boss fights. That change will make boss fights much more stressful for hardcore player. Hitbox. PoE1 had a limit of 1 hitbox. It can be multiple hitbox for some bosses on PoE2. It will be interesting to see how it works for AoE skills and if we can abuse that to deal more damage. Now let's speak about stats. Chance to hit. Enemy's distance will now impact chance to hit. Again, that feels like another nerf for range builds. Charges. Charges no longer grant bonuses. Now they are meant to empower the skills that use them. Also, skills that use charge cannot generate them. It will be interesting to discover how we are going to enable skills like Flicker Strike in the future. Conversion. This is a big change. Conversion change is in the line of making the game more simple and accessible. It used to be a quite complex mechanic. There was an order in which conversion was possible. Physical to lightning, lightning to cold, cold to fire, and fire to chaos. And was allowing double dipping. Now, conversion remembers the damage type. It means that, for instance, scaling physical damage while converting 100% of it to cold damage will have no effect. Deflection. Deflection is a new stat that reminds me of the old dodge that we used to have. It will be an implicit on dexterity shields. We need to see if there will be ways to increase it with explicit modifier or skill tree. I would guess that there will be at least one unique shield with this stat and stronger effect. Leech. Boy, that's a big one. They have simplified Leech calculation, which was ridiculously complicated. It's now a percentage of damage dealt to enemies, and they will have Leech resistance based on their level. Attribute. This is another big one. Attributes now grants more start spare points and determine how many support gems of their type we can use. League mechanics. As for now, League's mechanics that are confirmed to make it into PoE2 are Ritual, Delirium, Breach, and Delve. Identify items. There is an NPC in town that allows us to identify all items in our inventory at once. This is a pretty good change, even though not so incredible. Let's hope we can invite this NPC into our hideout. Pause. This is unexpected and one of my favorite change. We can pause the game. I'm sorry to get so excited for such a small feature that we had in video games since the dawn of times. The great news is that, while paused, we can hover over the enemies to read their infos. This was so frustrating in PoE1, never having the time to read monsters' informations. Also, opening the skill tree automatically pauses the game. Flasks Refill. We need to refill our flask in town with a well. Visiting town will not do it anymore. I'm a bit sad about that change. This is an interaction that adds nothing to the game. Vendors. We can now buy and sell from the same window. Very good. Glossary. There is a glossary now. We can open it to get informations on any underlying keywords. Tooltip Upgrade. Hovering over an item or a node while holding shift will not display the change to your DPS. This is another long-awaited feature. Thank you so much for that. Now let's speak about the passive skill tree. The first big change is dual specialization. Weapon swapping will now give us access to a different skill tree. This means that we can now play two builds at the same time. This is great and potentially broken. As an example, imagine we can summon some minions, then swap to another build, while taking advantage of buffs granted by minions. But mostly, it means that we can use one build for clearing and then swap to a single target build for bosses. Life. There is no longer life on the passive skill tree. Default attack. Default attack can now be supported by gems. I guess that Empyrean's last project might be done again in the future, considering that change. Raise Spectre. Raise Spectre are now called Blind Spectre and can store monsters. It means that we no longer need to bang Spectre, and I guess Minions player are celebrating right now. Mounting. We can now mount minions, which greatly increase movement speed, but also increase damage taken and chance to be stunned. Wand skills. Wand skills are now spells. Goodbye Kinetic Blast and Power Siphon the way we know them. Brands. Brand skills are not totems. I'm a bit sad about that change because it was allowing some build diversity. I hope this will not change brands too much and that we will have keystones and nodes on the tree to achieve pretty similar mechanics that we used to have with them. Brands and totem are pretty off meta at the moment in PoE1, so I hope they will find a new life in PoE2. Transfigure gems and Vaal skills. Transfigure gems are confirmed to be here in PoE2. The lab is gone, so the question is, how are we going to find them? Vaal gems only grant the Vaal version of the skill, which is a bit sad in my opinion. Gears and sockets. That has been known for a while now. There is no longer sockets on gears. We have a gem menu with up to 9 skill slots. Skills can have up to 5 sockets. That means that, effectively, we can get up to 9 6 link on the build. This is kind of crazy. Oh, and also, there is no more socket colors. Meta gems. I think this is the part that I'm waiting for the most in PoE2. Meta gems are like cast on crit, mana forge arrow, cast when damage taken, and so on. This is PoE signature. It has enabled so many crazy builds over the years and we can expect much more from now on. Also, meta gems can be supported by active skill gem and support gems. Support gems. There is a few changes to support gems. They are now designed for gameplay and effect rather than for damage. Their requirement has changed. Now, every 5 attribute of a given type allows you for 1 support gem of that type. So, if you have 50 intelligence, you can have 10 support gem of that type. This is a great change for requirements because sometimes you need only a few gems of an attribute that is low on your build and that makes you invest much more than you wish. On top of that, attribute nodes on the skill tree grants the attribute that you want, and you can change that at any moment. Gemcutting. We will find uncut skill gem and uncut support gem, which are currencies that we use to discover gems. Also, gems are no longer getting experience. Now, we level up skill gems by using uncut gems. Quicksilver Flask. This is a very sad news, but Quicksilver Flask are gone. We will miss you dearly. Gold. There is no surprise there, as we have been testing it for the sake of PoE2 in Settlers of Kalgor. Gold is a core mechanic of the game. Pickup is automatic, thanks God, and it will be used for buying items and services from NPCs. Currencies. Alternation and screwing orbs are gone. Chaos orbs now removes then adds a modifier. Essences are still in the game. Seeing all the changes and the addition that we've talked about today, we can easily say that PoE2 is going to be a very different game from PoE1. I am extremely happy to see how much GGG took care of the user experience, from signals in-game for diverse interactions and mechanics, to the clarity and availability of informations. There is so much I'm excited about, like the meta gems and so much more. I didn't even speak about the class, the ascendancy, the campaign, but the video is already long enough. PoE2 is promising to be a whole new experience and to set up new standards. As soon as the game goes live, I will be streaming and posting videos, figuring out the game and sharing my experience. I'll be happy if you join me in this new era of Path of Exile, so make sure to come say hello on my stream on Twitch or to check out my video on YouTube. If you want me to make more videos like this one before PoE2 launch, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until my next video, take care of yourself and bye!